Hello again everyone and welcome back to another video from Old Frames Gaming. I'm your host BK and I just want to say thank you to all of our new and returning viewers. I'm truly thankful for your continued support and viewership. It was chilly in December as players met up at Dragon's Den to play the Alice format. That is a player created format that's composed entirely of cards from the Ice Age and Alliance's expansions. The only card banned is an anti-card, Amulet of Quaz, and it's a weird one. Alice is a format known for being somewhat slower with creatures that aren't categorized as good by today's standards. But in my opinion, that fact is what gives this format its charm. This type of gameplay is full of nostalgia and fills a void that's largely left empty in the current era of Magic. I for one love this format. It's quirky and incredibly unique among what I refer to as the old school formats. Our round 3 competitors are Chris K on Mono-Green Aggro versus Matt on Black-Red Necroburst. Let's get to the deck techs and see what our players are up to for this meetup. First up is Chris K's Mono-Green Aggro list. I love the simplicity of just jamming a bunch of creatures onto the battlefield and essentially telling your opponent, good luck dealing with all this. And this deck does just that. Chris's deck has acceleration through Findhorn Elves, Elvish Spirit Guide, and Wild Growth, as well as 3 Nature's Lore just for good measure. Staying on curve, he goes from Rime Dryad to Balduvian Bears to Woolly Mammoth and Aurochs. Evasion matters between Snow-Covered Landwalk to Trample, and the hits keep on coming. Giant Growth allows him to get in extra damage on an opponent or take down a creature in combat, and a forgotten relic from the past, Bounty of the Hunt, gives us another quote-unquote free way to buff our team. Aurochs even does this on its own so long as you have 2 or more attacking at the same time. Stampede works here as a great finisher too, giving our whole team trample. Brown Oof gives us some main deck play against troublesome artifacts, and Kesa alongside Heart of Yavimaya help to buff our team even more. Finally, Chris has Zurin Orb to maintain his life total and Thermokarst to answer problematic lands such as Kjeldren Outpost or Thawing Glaciers. It looks simple on paper, but Chris is really well prepared for just about any matchup. The sideboard continues the onslaught too. He's brought along additional Oofs, Thermokarst, and Aurochs just in case the main deck ones can't get the job done. Phyrexian Warbeast offers a discounted 3/4 artifact creature on the off chance that someone is packing Circle of Protection green. Thought Leech helps us against the blue mages. Woolly Spider and Hurricane fend off pesky flyers. And Essence Filter gives us added protection against enchantments. And lastly, Helm of Obedience just looks like a blast here. How can you not appreciate the strategy? I mean, this format is just steeped in flavor. Back on camera for another round is Matt on his black and red Necroburst deck. He's packing tons of removal for Chris's team in Pyroclasm, Incinerate, Death Spark, and Soul Burn. Even Krovic and Horror can do a pretty good burn spell impression in a pinch. If he can clear the way, Matt's team of Ashen Ghoul, Balduvian Horde, and Abyssal Spectre might just be able to get the job done. Follow that up with a constant source of damage in Limdol's Hex, as well as refueling his hand with Necropotence, and you have a recipe for a winning strategy. He's even got some artifact and land removal and pillage just so things don't get out of hand. Matt's sideboard brings a couple more Feast or Famine and Dystopia to the table, a tough punisher for green and white decks. Though it doesn't offer much more in this matchup, that might just be enough to get across the finish line. These are some tried and true strategies and I'm excited to see how it plays out. Let's head on down and see our competitors battle it out in this final round. And as we join our players here in round 3, game 1, Chris is going to be on the left hand side of your screen and Matt on the right. Chris won the die roll and he's going to open up on a forest into a Wild Growth and pass the turn to Matt. Matt's going to grab a new one off the top, consider his moves, and start off with a Thawing Glaciers and pass the turn back to Chris. Looks like Chris has found a second land, so he's got 3 mana. Can he find a Thermokarst to take down this Thawing Glaciers? Looks like he has found another Wild Growth and accelerated into Findhorn Elves. So lots and lots of mana on Chris's side of the battlefield. He's going to go into his third turn with potentially 6 mana. So Matt has managed to find a mountain here. He's going to go ahead and Death Spark those elves for 1 damage to get them off the battlefield. Probably a good idea. And then he is going to lead into Zurin Orb. Chris finds another forest for the turn. With access to 5 mana, is he going to have anything here? So we're going to tap 3, and we're going to play an Elvish Spirit Guide. It's just a 2/2 Grey Ogre. Matt draws his card for the turn and finds another mountain. Carefully weighing his options here, as one misstep could potentially be fatal against a mono-green player. So he's going to go ahead and activate Thawing Glaciers to find a swamp. So Matt going to shuffle up here, sufficiently randomize. I think these players talking about the hilarity of playing an Elvish Spirit Guide as a Grey Ogre. Alright, so Matt is going to end his turn, returning Thawing Glaciers to his hand. Chris takes a fresh draw. He's going to come on across for 2 damage, sending Matt down to 18. He's got tons of mana available to him, but I guess we just didn't find anything this turn. On Matt's turn, he lands a Sulphurous Springs and taps for 4 mana. This appears to be a Balduvian Horde. I can recall this thing being a powerhouse back in the day. I think it was $20 or $25 at its height. So, accounting for the random discard, Pyroclasm is going to go to the graveyard. So on Chris's turn, looks like he's going to tap 3 mana for a Woolly Mammoth. And he's going to come on across. This smells like Giant Growth. I think Matt is going to wisely take this 2 damage here and go to 16. So we're going to replay this Thawing Glaciers here. Tap 3 mana. And we're going to hit one of those forests with a Pillage. You can see Chris shaking his hand there in frustration. Just playfully anyway. And Matt passes the turn. So Chris is going to untap here. Likely still holding on to that Giant Growth. Going to tap 2 mana for Nature's Lore and go search for a forest and put it into play. So for those of you who may be interested, there is a format of old school called Scryings. And this is one of the notable cards, at least to me, that is available in that format. Nature's Lore is one of the procured cards in that list that is legal in that particular version of old school Magic. And it allows you to basically go and get any forest and put it into play untapped, which would include dual lands. So for anyone out there who plays Tropical Island or Taiga or like myself, Savannah, definitely worth looking into. So getting back on track here with these players, Matt is landing another land for the turn. Looks like he is going to tap 4 mana for a Krovikan Horror to get something online. He is at 13. Pretty healthy life total still against Chris's 20. And he's going to pass the turn back. Chris is going to go ahead and untap and draw a new card. Chris looking it over, and it's getting pretty grim here. Unless he can bust through somehow or another with that giant growth. So he's going to come on across with that woolly mammoth, which I think is a 3/3 trampler. Matt's going to go ahead and offer the block. It's actually a 2/2, I believe. So Chris is going to go ahead and expend the giant growth. Krovikan Horror is going to go to the graveyard. These two discussing the trample damage, I guess. Matt's going to go on down to 9 life. And he's going to activate Thawing Glaciers on the end of the turn. Looks like he almost lost some of his cards there. Chris going to go ahead and cut. Chris still at 20 life here. Matt has not been able to get through. Matt placed Thawing Glaciers into the graveyard. Oh, he used Zern Orb. He gained 2 life. So Matt's going to go to 11 now. He finds another Sulphur Springs. 2 mana. Here's Limdol's Hex. Okay, so this deals 1 damage to each player during their upkeep, unless they pay 1 black or 3 generic mana for each one of these on the battlefield. And so now Matt's going to come on across for 5 damage with the Horde. Chris using that Bounty of the Hunt to give some counters to Elvish Spirit Guide. But Matt says, no, I've got an Incinerate, so that's not going to be a valid target. So Chris going to take 5 damage and go to 15. It's got to be weird feeling like we're playing cards in 1997 now. It's the first time I've seen Balduvian Horde do damage in a long, long time. Feels good, though. Alright, so Chris finds a Balduvian Bears. And he's going to take 1 off of the Limdol's Hex. And he attacks Matt for 3. Matt goes ahead and pays the 1 on the Hex. Chris making sure that's accounted for on his side of the battlefield. And here comes the Horde in for 5 more. Sending Chris down to 10. So these two just trading punches now. Tapping 4. Looks like we found an Aurochs. So Chris swings on in for 5, sends Matt to 3. Matt pays the 1 for the upkeep on Limdol's Hex. Here he comes across for 5, which is going to be blocked by the Aurochs. Matt living like he's got no fear here. With that Zern Orb in place, it's going to make sure that he stays at a healthy life total. So he's going to go ahead and sacrifice a couple lands and gain 4 life, and then just take 1 damage. So he's going to go to 2. And Chris is going to end his turn. These two are doing a pretty good job keeping up with the upkeep triggers. Matt finds another pillage for that forest that has the wild growth on it. And here comes Balduvian Horde for another 5. Is this thing going to go the distance? It looks like it just might. And in upkeep, Matt goes ahead and finishes it off. Incinerate to end the game. All right. So good game 1 between these two competitors. We're going to give them a moment to sideboard, and we will join them in game 2. And to lead off game 2, Matt is going to take a mulligan down to 6 cards. Chris will be on the play. Chris is going to open up on Forest, predictably so, into Rime Dryad, a 1/2 snow-covered land-walking creature, which definitely could be relevant between the bounties of the hunt and the giant growths that he has, as well as Stampede. Matt plays a swamp and passes back. Chris finds a second forest for the turn. It looks like he's going to pitch an Elvish Spirit Guide and Thermokarst that land. And he comes across for 1 damage, sending Matt down to 19. So Matt draws a new card for the turn. He finds another swamp and quickly passes the turn back to Chris. Chris getting a third forest and a good amount of land ahead of Matt at this point. Here comes a Rime Dryad again for 1 damage, sending Matt to 18. So Matt on both of his colors now. And he's going to go ahead and incinerate that woolly mammoth. But Chris says, no, I think I'm going to use the bounty of the hunt to keep that thing around. Pretty good move. So Matt passes back. Chris takes a fresh look at one off the top and comes on into the red zone. Looks like he's cracking in for 4 here. And he passes the turn. Matt finds a mountain. So finally catching up with Chris on the land count. Looks like Chris may have found a Balduvian Bears, so he's going to come across for 4 damage. And here come the Bears. He quickly passes back to Matt. He feels like he's got him on the ropes. Matt up to 4 mana now. Here comes an Abyssal Spectre. So we got a blocker now in play. That'll at least stop either the Dryad or the Bears. This again smells like giant growth. So Matt's going to go ahead and assign his blocker here. Looks like it was just a pump fake. So Matt's going to take 4 more damage and go to 6. Chris has found a wild growth, trying to accelerate that mana just a little bit more. Matt's going to untap. Has he found anything that's going to help him yet? A Dark Banishing, a Pyroclasm, anything. Looks like he has not yet. But Matt goes ahead and sends Abyssal Spectre into the red zone. So he's going to crack in for 2. Chris is going to discard a card. And then Matt is going to follow that up with Soul Burn. So he's going to take out that woolly mammoth. Chris is going to come on across for 1. And he's going to play out an Elvish Spirit Guide as a Grey Ogre again, which is not necessarily a bad play. So Matt at 7 life here, got some decisions to make, as Chris is at 18. But it looks like Chris is out of cards. Matt thinking it over here. He decides he's going to pass back for this turn. Some banter amongst the players here about the board state. Chris passes the turn back. Matt's found a Lodestone Bauble. That card is so strange, I don't recall what it does, but I think it has something to do with putting lands from the graveyard on top of a player's library. And he taps 4 mana and follows that up with a Krovikan Horror. On Chris's turn, he draws a new card. Looks like he's found another forest. and he opts to play a Phyrexian War Beast. So this is a 3/4 artifact creature that when it goes to the graveyard, I believe you lose 1 life and have to sacrifice a land. But it does get around some of the removal, and it is a pretty high toughness, so it does kind of stop a lot of Matt's answers in Incinerate, Death Spark, that kind of thing. So on Matt's turn, he's going to untap after having activated the Bauble. On his upkeep, he's going to draw a card for the Bauble, because this format has a lot of the what they call slow trips. He finds a Sulphurous Springs and plays it. Alright, here's 4 more mana. He's found an Ashen Ghoul. So this is a 3/1 creature with haste, and it has some strange text about how many creature cards are above it in the graveyard, and then it gets to return to play. I think it has to have 3 creature cards above it, and you can return it to play. But it's unaffected by Summoning Sickness, or haste as it's called now. Chris on his turn has found another Elvish Spirit Guide, which he's going to go ahead and play out. He's going to check out the text on Ashen Ghoul here. So Matt's going to go ahead and decide to block with Krovikan Horror. Or not, maybe not. Maybe he's just going to use Ashen Ghoul. Oh, he is. Okay, so we're going to sack the Horror to deal 1 more damage, and then use the Ghoul to finish it off. So both of those are going to go to the graveyard. But Chris is going to lose a life and have to sacrifice a land. Krovikan Horror has a weird trigger, in so much that if it goes to the graveyard, during your next upkeep, if it has a creature directly above it, you can return it to your hand. So Matt's returned that to his hand. Well, Matt's going to pass back at this point with no real good way to finish it out at this point. And Chris is going to send a team. Prompting Matt to take a look at his hand. See if he's got any answers here. He's going to go ahead and block one of the Elvish Spirit Guides. And I think he's going to take 3 damage and go down to 4 here. Spectre will survive combat. And Chris follows it up with a Finehorn Elves before finishing his turn. So now Matt has played a Feast or Famine, which allows him to put a zombie token into play. So he's going to get a 2/2 at the end of the turn. Tapping 4 mana. Matt's found another Balduvian Horde. This thing went the distance last game. Is it going to do it again? Feast or Famine, the random discard on that one. And Matt says, you can go ahead, Chris. So now things are looking a lot worse in terms of board state for Chris here. He's only found a forest. The creatures on Matt's side are huge. Here comes Thawing Glaciers, which is just going to keep pumping out swamps to fuel a soul burn. And here comes an Ashen Ghoul. So Matt's going to go ahead and send a 5/5 into the red zone. That's going to put Chris down to 13. Chris finds another Rime Dryad, goes ahead and plays it out. Matt plays another Swamp and comes on across with Balduvian Horde yet again. That's going to put Chris at 8. He's quickly evening things out. And here comes Krovikan Horror. Matt says, go ahead. Chris finds a forest. It's looking pretty bleak here. He goes ahead and sends the team. I think he sees that the writing is on the wall. And that door is closing fairly quickly. Matt going ahead and assigning blockers here. And that is going to do it, everybody. Thank you for joining in for these 3 rounds of Alice Magic. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. For old school content, please head on over to the Orb where you can see what Joe Singer's got going on. We'll see you in a couple of weeks with some videos from ATOG Fest at Dragon's Den. Thanks for tuning in.